Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully, everyone can hear and see me and see my screen as well. If there's any troubles with audio or visibility, if you just want to raise your hand or pop something in the chat, and I'll get that looked into. Hopefully, there'll be nothing to raise there. So yeah, thank you. Welcome along to Dukefield Energy's first webinar of the 2024-2025 academic year. Hopefully, the first of many. We've got some planned for later in 2024 with guest speakers, and then there'll be a similar range of things throughout 2025 as well. Just a bit of housekeeping for this one in particular. If we could save any questions for the end, there's 5-10 minutes towards the end for Q&A session. The meeting is being recorded as well. It'll then go on our YouTube page and our website in the coming days. Yeah, without further ado, I shall move on. So the agenda quickly, just a brief background to Dukefield Energy, procurement options on offer, an energy market update, the wide range of services that we do offer under the energy management umbrella, and then any questions towards the end as well. So who we are, we're Dukefield Energy. We've been established for over 25 years, a full service energy partner. So what that means is end-to-end energy management of all requirements from utilities to energy efficiency solutions. So other services we do offer as well as part of the utilities procurement side of things, things like bill validation, bespoke reports, budget forecasts, assistance with new connections and change of tenancies, and anything else that we can help with, we certainly will. We've got extensive experience across the team, and we understand primarily the energy issues faced by the wider public sector and education providers. What we've found, certainly over the last 2 or 3 years, is that some of our competitors perhaps don't understand the public sector like we do, be it things from the sign-off process or even the need for compliance. Again, what we found throughout the challenging last 2 or 3 years is that some customers have chosen not to be compliant, which is obviously quite detrimental as far as we're concerned. But yeah, we like to think that our knowledge in the public sector is what sets us apart from competitors. We work in collaboration with our customers to help find the right solution, especially as I say, that is compliant, whether it be fully fixed offering or a flexible one, whichever is more beneficial to the customer. Again, I think quite a USP of ours is the transparent approach that we take when dealing with customers. There's no hidden terms and conditions, which I think is quite a key one. There's no termination required should you wish to move away, and go by somebody else. And again, one of the most important things I think is that we do encourage our account managers or sales people, whatever you want to kind of call them, to be completely open and transparent as well. There's no pushy sales pitches or incorrect advice just to make a sale. Everything that we advise and say is with the best interest of the customer at the forefront of the advice. Commission as well, we always declare what our commission uplift is very early on in the process. We always encourage as well that if you do go to other providers, that they take the same approach that we do, just to ensure fair comparison and complete transparency. Lastly, for this particular point, every customer has a dedicated point of contact and account manager, which again I think is quite key. It's not just a case of you sign with us and then you pass on to our team. We'll always give a dedicated point of contact and account manager, and then escalation as well should it be required. Moving on to procurement and the compliance, as I've mentioned, we have a compliant route to market via the University of Essex as our host under their national education framework. There's 4 lots on this particular framework. Lot number 1 is electricity and the source of electricity, of which there are 5 suppliers on there. Lot 2 is gas and the supply of natural gas. There's 4 suppliers on lot number 2. Lot number 3 is water procurement, and there's 1 supplier under that. And then lot number 4, finally, is the wide range of services that we offer under the energy management lot, and there are 2 suppliers on there. For lot number 1 and 2, which is the primary focus of this particular slide, we'll always discuss aims and objectives and help to develop a bespoke strategy, whether the strategy is based on market conditions or particular board meetings or when a signatory is available. There are fully fixed and flexible contracts on offer for lots number 1 and 2. And then other requirements are considered as well, be it green energy, assistance with AMR upgrades, other payment terms, or any other specific requirements that you might require. Just at the bottom there, we've got I suppose a timeline as to the process. So the first point being, initial introduction. Normally a Teams meeting or face-to-face is on offer as well. We'll then just provide a bit of more background as to the services that we do offer, as well as a market update. Then point number 2, or step number 2 really, is fact finding. So this can take a little bit of time just to gather the information that we require in order to build a tender to send out to our suppliers. We'll then get to know a little bit more about your usage meters, sites, and things like that, just to help us familiarise ourselves with you guys as a customer. The tender process then takes around 5 to 7 working days to send to our suppliers and get quotes back. It can be done slightly quicker, but we tend to advise that 5 working days is a general rule of thumb, just to ensure we get as many bids back as possible and that any issues are identified and ironed out before the day of pricing. We'll then provide quotes to you as a like-for-like comparison to your current costs. Generally, we provide quotes of 12 months, 24 months, and 36 months. And I suppose the most important bit really there is that there's no obligation to sign into a contract with us if you choose not to. What we'll then do is ask for feedback on the prices. Perhaps you've gone to another broker as well and they've done the exact same exercise. So if you say to me, Johnny, we found another supplier that's maybe 2 or 3% cheaper, we're not ready to sign off just yet, but we thought you should know that there's better options out there. We can then feed that back to our suppliers. And what we found over the last sort of 6 months or so since the framework went live is that feedback does go a hell of a long way in helping suppliers become competitive. We can then repeat this exercise as many times as is necessary. Again, we don't expect that that customers are able to sign off at the first time of asking. We often find that it can be 4 or 5 bites of the cherry before customers are satisfied that they want to sign in. As well as that, the markets obviously fluctuate quite dramatically, as we've seen over the last couple of years. And as ever, one of the most important things to consider is that prices are only valid in day. So once 4 o'clock comes around, the exercise more often than not does need to be repeated. Moving on to water procurement. So this one's quite a grey area, I think, for a lot of public sector or businesses in general, really. So I'll just kick off with a small history lesson, if I may, into the water industry. So in April 2017, the water industry underwent a significant change as the market was deregulated. This meant that businesses, charities, and public sector organisations were no longer tied to a single regional provider for their water services. Instead, they were given the freedom to choose their water retailer from a range of licensed companies, of which there are about 17 in the UK. Although this did happen in 2017, which is 7.5 years ago now, many organisations are still unaware of the deregulation and their ability to choose their water provider. So this is where Dukefield Energy have a solution. We have 1 supplier on our framework lot, and that is Water Plus. So one of the frequently asked questions really about procuring via a framework, and especially our framework, what are the benefits of going via Dukefield Energy and therefore Water Plus? So what we've learned really from Water Plus is that they will, under the framework agreement that we've got and that Water Plus have signed into, is that you as a customer will get a dedicated account manager, which you wouldn't necessarily get if you were to sign directly with Water Plus or any other water retailer for that matter. As you can imagine, there's savings to be seen by signing into a contract as opposed to staying on deemed rates. Again, you as a customer might already be with Water Plus on deemed rates or out of contract, so we can assist with securing a contract via Water Plus and therefore saving money as well. There's also water audits, automatic meter readers and data loggers available via Water Plus, and this is something that is of interest. And what this will do is obviously help reduce usage and therefore cost, which is obviously a benefit to you as an end user. There's also things like emergency planning support to keep your business running in the event of an emergency, and then just general advice to help keep water safe as well. Last point there, and again, there's loads more detailed in the framework user guide, which I'm happy to share with people if this is something that will be of interest. Just advice on water efficiency equipment, network mapping, and quite importantly, leak detection, because I've said a few cases over the last year or so where there's been a leak somewhere, customers not been able to identify it. They then get in touch with their water provider, and they can identify it very, very quickly. So yeah, as I mentioned, we really are scratching the surface there with with what Water Plus have to offer. Again, a bit more of a background as to Water Plus. They are a very large water supplier in the UK. They do have, I think it's about 25% of the market is under their supply. And again, something worth mentioning really in terms of knowledge from a water point of view. It's a lot different than gas and electric procurement. Water quotes are valid for 45 days, which is obviously a stark contrast to your gas and electric being valid in day. Again, one of the main differences is that 90% of the cost of a water contract is actually wholesale cost, so isn't negotiable really. It's the other 10% that's the retailer cost and set by companies like Water Plus, and that's where Water Plus really come into their own, because their services are quite industry leading, and that you get what you pay for really when it comes to that extra 10%, in my opinion. So yeah, that's the water procurement. Again, quite a grey area for a lot of consumers out there. But we like to think we've got a solution and have been able to effectively support our customers over the last couple of months since our new framework went live, with helping them save money. So just a brief market update as well. I'm just going to take a quick pause to have a drink of water. So yeah, on screen there, I've just got a wholesale market graph showing costs over the last 12 months. The markets so far in 2024 have been quite positive. We started the year, if we can just see, the mouse wants to kick in, from January sort of to mid to late February, seeing a very large decrease in wholesale costs. We were hopeful that was going to continue throughout the year, but unfortunately not. What we did see that over the summer primarily is costs rising, and volatility for large parts, there being quite a good example, primarily caused by at the time political tension, should we say, between Israel and Iran. Obviously that's escalated since sort of June, July time, and as well as Russia and Ukraine, the conflict there escalated and continued to escalate. Ukraine obviously crossed the border into Russia for the very first time, and there was quite a lot of fighting over key gas pipeline areas, which did send quite a bit of nervousness around the markets as well. As well as that, over the summer there were some unplanned outages in Norwegian gas fields, which again, since Russia no longer supplies gas to the majority of the UK, it's the smaller things that do have a bigger impact than what they would have done maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Again, one of the headlines really is that the average unit rate in 2024 has been much cheaper than that of 2023. If we just look at the tail end of 2023 over here, the wholesale costs were still extremely high compared to what we've seen in 2024. One of the key things as well is that UK and European winter storage level targets were achieved in late August, well ahead of schedule. The target to reach these, the deadline to meet these targets is actually the 1st of November. So achieving those in late August was very promising indeed. As well as that, this one's quite hot off the press. The UK became the first major economy to completely phase out coal power plants, as it looks to move closer to net zero. As well as that, the UK does wish to stop using gas to generate electricity. This one's quite an unknown as well, that the UK generates around 40 to 50% of its electricity requirements from gas, which is why gas and electricity prices are so so closely tracked together. The last bullet point there on screen, which has been the headline for sort of the last 18 months to 2 years, really, geopolitical events do have such a big impact now in the energy market landscape. Obviously, there's quite a lot going on with Israel and Lebanon. So one of the main fears really is what neighbouring countries or the UN are planning and by way of action, or even just things being said that might get taken out of context or things like that. But on the whole, it's a positive outlook as we head into the winter months of 2024. Moving on to as I mentioned earlier, the wide range of energy management services that are on offer under Lot 4. One of the main ones there, the first bullet point, energy management consultancy services, things like net zero consulting and decarbonisation. So obviously there's quite strict targets that are laid out for the public sector by way of decarbonisation, and that's something that we're going to look to focus on by way of information and other newsletters and articles that we're going to be writing over the next couple of months to help educate our customers and support as best we can. Other things such as compliance, listed there, display energy certificates, energy performance certificates, streamlined energy and carbon reporting, as well as other energy audits. Things like behaviour change programs, be it simply turning lights off, encouraging student staff to turn off lights and computers and things like that. Even basic things like timed outside lights, so they don't come on at the weekends or out of hours. It seems quite simple, but obviously very, very effective in the long run. Lastly, there, that fourth bullet point, assistance with potential SALIX and other funding routes. So phase 4 of the public sector decarbonisation scheme opens in mid-October and will close on the 25th of November. So we'll be here on hand to support with any applications that you need support with, or just general advice as well. Other solutions that we've got on offer: heat pumps, ground air source or water source heat pumps. There's obviously been a lot of funding for those in the past, so we can assist with the procurement and installation of those. Solar PV, on-site generation. There's end-to-end support from our suppliers there. I've been very close to a particular what's the word I'm looking for? Solar plan or proposal from one of our suppliers to a customer, and it's very, very good, very detailed. All the requirements are taken into consideration, and then a really well thought out and presented plan and proposal is then sent back to the customer for consideration. Electric vehicle charging, so be it a wall-mounted EV charge point or pedestal, and again the points I've listed there is just scratching the surface of what's actually on offer. 24/7 maintenance and support, standard fast or supercharge options available, software upgrades and mobile apps as well. I attended an event over the spring with one of our suppliers, and the sheer amount of stuff that's on offer is really staggering and really good to see. So if there's funding available to you as an end user, and you wish to utilize electric vehicle charging, please do get in touch and we'll be more than happy to support on that. Other energy management services on offer. Again, this is all covered by Lot 4, so is a compliant route to market. So yeah, LED lighting sensors, all sorts of other lighting bits and bobs there, all benefit from energy efficiency and low maintenance costs in use, flexible payment payback, uh, be it 5 years or less. Yeah. Um, Minimal projected whole life costs, including installation, consumption, and maintenance. But first and foremost, and the most important bit there, is the heat decarbonisation and emissions reductions as well. So an important upcoming industry change as well, called market-wide half-hourly settlement. So this has been bandied about for a good number of years now. It's one of those where Ofgem have said this is what we want, and it's up to suppliers to kind of dance to that tune. So as it says on screen there, yeah, energy suppliers are about to undergo a colossal change. In the next 3 years, Ofgem will introduce half-hourly settlement. Obviously, half-hourly meters have been in place for a long, long time now. But what this is upgrading all non-half-hourly meters to a half-hourly settlement without a physical meter exchange. So as I mentioned earlier, it's up to the suppliers now to get the gears in motion to enact this change. So the last point there that I mentioned is theoretically there should be no more estimated bills, but I'll believe that when I see it. So ultimately, this will help end users save money. It'll help the the grid and the network be able to more accurately determine how much energy is used. Obviously, as it says on the tin, the half-hourly settlement, they'll the network and suppliers will be able to better forecast based on half-hourly data and consumption. So this leads me on to the next point of meter operators, data collectors, and data aggregators. So they are mandatory agents, as we call them, for all electricity meters. Many customers opt to just stick with the default, which is appointed by the supplier. However, two of the key benefits of sourcing your own meter operators, data collectors, and data aggregators are the cost element. There's cost savings to be seen by appointing your own, but I think more importantly is the service level agreements are there in place if you do choose to sign directly with one of those agents. A good example I saw 5 or 6 months ago, customer had a problem with their meter. The display wasn't working, but they didn't have a contract with their own meter operator, left it in the hands of the supplier. And because there's no service level agreement between meter operator and customer, it just ultimately meant that they were bumped down the priority list. So obviously, by signing directly with these agents, you've got service level agreements that they then have to adhere to. So it's a good two-pronged positive, really, that you save money but have a much better experience with these providers as well. So I've left a little link on there as well. That there's around 20 meter operators, data collectors, data aggregators in the UK. Dukefield Energy have a broker/TPI agreement in place with 3 of them, which offers a good range of choice. And again, as ever, there's a lot more to these companies and providers than I've mentioned on screen. They don't just do the bare bones. They do offer a hell of a lot more as well. So that's it from me. I think we may have a question as well, which I'll just see if I can find. Yeah, question is, I've been advised by a competitor supplier that prices will rise today. Is this the case, or are they thinking of domestic prices? So yeah, I'll start off with the domestic parts of that question as well. There's often some misconception, which is quite well founded, if truth be told, between the domestic price cap, and the non-domestic price cap. Simply put, the non-domestic price cap, there isn't one. The domestic price cap was brought in place by Ofgem a good number of years ago to essentially stop suppliers ripping off customers that have been on deemed or out of contract rates for a long time. It's changed a lot since the markets have gone quite bad. I think a lot more customers are on the price cap than Ofgem would have previously predicted. But yeah, simply put, suppliers and other brokers might try and scaremonger you into signing contracts with them by saying prices will rise. It's never for definite as to whether things are going to, as I mentioned earlier, we'll always be open and transparent as to, our interpretation of the markets. And that is at this moment in time, things are still looking very, very good, despite the fact that um, the conflict between Israel and Lebanon still, well, it's getting worse by the day. Prices are still holding out market wise. Anyway, so yeah, hopefully that answers that particular question. By all means, Steve, if you do want to ask a follow up, by all means do so. That's absolutely fine. Is there any other questions whilst we're on? Oh, happy days. We've got various ways of getting in touch there. The phone number, website, or email. So yeah, if you do have any other questions or want to arrange a meeting, that's absolutely fine. In the meantime, we'll be in touch with some more information about decarbonisation and the Salix funding, which is due to open in a few weeks' time, as well as other key dates for the diary, webinars and shows we'll be attending. Thanks very much for your time, guys.